Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to Angelic Embrace, where we document and narrate the glorious and life-changing near-death experiences from people all over the world. So sit back, relax, know that you are loved, and let's get into today's near-death experience story. Consider subscribing and watching to the end to find out what happens. I followed the nurse's instructions and took deep breaths of the gas for a considerable amount of time. After a considerable amount of time had elapsed, the dentist eventually raised the quantity of pure gas. I recall that my heart was racing, that I had feelings of fear and anxiety, and that I was unable to move or shift the focus of my eyes. I was filled with utter terror, and I distinctly recall wanting the nurse and the dentist to be able to see by the expression on my face that something very serious was happening with me. Then, I became aware of a piercingly loud ringing sound, similar to bells, in both of my ears. The volume of the sound continued to increase, and I found myself thinking that it sounded absolutely horrible. I was overcome with worry and thought to myself, God, I need to wake up, since something horrible was going to happen. Then I recalled that I was in a dark location that appeared to be spinning around me, but after a while, I discovered that it was actually me that was being pulled forward at a rapid pace towards a little light. I came to a halt there and felt really sad because I believed I had actually died. And I lamented the loss of my daughter, thinking that I wouldn't be able to see her anymore. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to see her again. It sounded like two separate women were talking to me at the same time. The sound was coming from behind me, but I don't remember everything that was spoken by them. There was a lot of it. I attempted to back out of the parking lot but was unable to. They told her, Madeline, the purpose of your life is, among other things, to try to have as much fun as possible, forget the sad things that happened, and laugh and smile as much as you possibly can. In other words, the goal of her life should be to try to enjoy herself as much as she possibly can. You need not worry about anything since it is going to be just fine. The two women agreed that having a sense of humor is highly significant. I recall that I always had a sensation in my stomach that was similar to a sinking feeling, and that sensation continued even after I was taken out of my body and wound up in a corner of the room. I was able to keep an eye on the other two people who were working with me from that vantage point. In what seemed like only a fraction of a second, I was standing next to the dentist's left cheek, and I could feel his beard brushing up against my right face. It was a mind-blowing sensation to be that near to him without his noticing or sensing my presence in any way. They were stating that I had stopped breathing, and I heard them talking to one another about it. He promised to give his heart a massage, so I watched as he did exactly that. I became really frightened when I noticed that all of the color had gone from my face when I was down below in the chair. After then, these bells started ringing in my ears again, and the sick feeling I had in the pit of my stomach got much worse. I was suddenly positioned so that I was lying down in the chair, and the dentist was leaning over me with a perspiring face. When I told them what had occurred to me, I immediately burst into uncontrollable sobs. They handled the situation with relative composure and offered me consolation. He added that he saw that I had been gone for a time and that it is possible for it to happen if the amount of pure gas that is being used is incorrect. He claimed that it has happened to him in the past. I went to see a psychotherapist very after it happened, and we spoke about what had happened. Uncertain during the process of having my teeth treated, they offered me some gas. As a consequence of the incorrect administration of the gas quantity, I was subjected to an incorrect dose of gas for a considerable length of time. My chest was beaten very vigorously by the dentist on many occasions. The dentist told me after the fact that I had entirely stopped breathing, and because of this, he felt the urgent need to wake me up quite quickly by hammering on my chest and shaking me. He did this because he believed it was an emergency. Everything there is to know about the cosmos, I gained some insight into the purpose of my existence. And among other things, I learned that maintaining a sense of humor is really essential to me. I am the type of person that finds fun in most situations. I have always enjoyed humor and doing wacky pranks, so the fact that they gave me such an order may seem a little unusual, considering that I already had a lot of laughter in my life. Sometimes I have dreams that really come true. I can very clearly sense energy around other people and plants, and I hear a voice in my left ear that seems to be talking to me sometimes. I am unable to identify the person. Can spontaneously see pictures surrounding a person that, among other things, provide information about their state of health. Can see ghosts and other spirits in their own house as well as in the homes of other people. After that, I saw a significant increase in the strength of my intuition. Next up in our series of accounts of near-death experiences is, to tell the truth, going through it was not very difficult. During my trip at Disney World for the New Year's holiday in the year 2000, I became unwell out of the blue. Dinner was at a restaurant, and I was with my wife. After eating supper, it took a few hours before I started to feel excruciating agony in my stomach. Being of Italian descent and a guy, it was only natural that I would refuse to go to the hospital. Around 4 in the morning, the agony became unbearable, and I requested that my wife contact the front desk for assistance. They sent an emergency medical team to my room because Disney has its own in-house EMTs and ambulance staff. The 2 former New York City emergency medical technicians advised that I go to the hospital immediately. It would appear that while we were on the route to the nearby hospital, a significant decline in my vital signs began to take place. I can still recall the paramedic asking over the radio for them to travel to the regional trauma center rather than the local hospital so that they could treat the patient there. The patient's blood pressure reads 60/40. I was in a lot of agony when we got there, and I recall asking the personnel for something to help, but they said no. The doctors told me that they would not be able to provide me with pain medication until they determined the source of the issue. They needed to do a CAT scan in addition to the other testing. That's about the last thing I can recall hearing or seeing. It appears that I was never provided with any form of pain medicine. I do recall telling my wife that she had been an excellent wife, acting as though I was aware that I would soon be departing. At the time, I was unaware that the hospital had assigned the priest to remain with my wife in the room where I was recovering. I also found out afterwards that the doctors had informed my wife that they had done everything they could and that it was now up to me to make a difference. Well, at some point, I think I lost consciousness. When I came to, I distinctly recall feeling as though I had been jolted back to life. My recollection is one of witnessing a white light that was really brilliant. I also had a memory of seeing my mother, who had gone away quite a few years ago. She was obstructing access to a doorway or entrance by standing in front of it in this manner. She did not say a word, but I can only assume the silence was a symbol indicating that it was not yet my turn to enter. After that, I came to. At the moment, I don't know why, but the fact that I couldn't enter and stay wherever it was that I had gone caused me to feel a sense of disappointment. It appeared to be rather quiet there. As a result of everything that I went through, I no longer have any fear of passing away. That brings us to the end. To this day, the physicians are still debating whether or not I experienced anaphylactic shock, toxic shock, or a staph infection. Whatever it was, I was able to make a complete recovery from it.